Todd, and welcome to the fourth in the series of these short films to help you talk or critique about an artist's work. In the last video I talked about the Fibonacci series and generally about paintings that worked in a straight line. The variation of this though is the Fibonacci spiral. Now you may be surprised to discover that in fact it's quite a common device. It's not so much a conscious device for some artists, but they seem to end up with this anyway. Because what it gives you is a circling dynamism around the painting, which ends up at one particular point. So you actually create a focal point. Now it can be colour, it could be tone, it could be almost anything in fact, it could be a blank space. But at the end of the spiral, you have a centre of focus. There have been any number of artists in the past who have used this device quite deliberately. Here we have an example, or two examples in fact, a Vermeer and Hokusai's Great Wave. You can see in both, even though the spiral is the opposite way around from what I had, that you lead to a particular point and the eye ends up just there, and that's why you do it. And here's another example. The Mona Lisa. Now, for every other reason that it's famous, it's probably not because there is a spiral composition underneath it. But again, you can see how it works. If you turn our spiral upwards, the centre ends up at the face, and you can follow that line all the way around. Typically, portraits do this anyway, but they usually do it via a triangle. The base is either side of the shoulders, and the apex is up close to the top of the head. A spiral is a very natural form. You can see examples in shells, you can see examples in plants. What you don't see in nature though are straight lines. That's a human idea of how everything works. Nature doesn't work that way. With the Hokusai in particular, you get something else as well. What we saw in the last video was a sense of movement from left to right or north-south. Here you get a sense of movement that leads you around in a circular fashion. Now there's a word for doing this. This is a centrifuge. A centrifuge is like a whirlpool. A whirlpool ends up at a centre, and so does this. But what it actually does is add a great sense of movement and dynamism. So it becomes much more active than maybe a static version, which is still the Fibonacci series, but divided up into rectangles. Here are two paintings. One is blue-green, the other is red. Whatever the colour is doing, what we're interested in here, though, is how these two paintings are composed. Now you can see quite clearly that there is a spiral. So, how could we express this? Both of these paintings make use of spiral compositions. Lines and colour shapes lead the eye from the outer edge to a focal point away from the centre. Differences in colour and value help to mark out the path the eye is to follow.